third movie and not particularly liking the fourth movie, I'm a little worried about Toy Story 5, and I kind of have been for a while now. Before I get into that, welcome back to Scareticulous. Please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel to see more content like this. And also, if you'd like to donate, that would be appreciated as well, because
I'm a big fan of money. I like it. I use it. I'd like to put more in that jar. That's where you come in.
So Woody is now fat and bald, and it's like,
huh?
I don't understand, like, the point of that inclusion into the movie. It feeds parts of him, like, you know, have sun exposure spots. And, you know, interestingly, I heard, like, the creators, at one point they thought it would be a neat idea to have him entirely sunburnt, like all over, just completely faded from the sun, kind of coloring in his face and everything else. And that would have been a terrible idea. I mean, way to mess with the branding of Toy Story. At least with the bald spot, you're not messing with the face of Woody, and so therefore you're going to still be able to sell toys. And I assure you that none of the toys that they're going to sell from this movie are going to have that bald spot. That's literally just something from the story of this movie. As for him getting fat, I don't really understand, because I understand, like, one time in Toy Story 2 where he had the ripped arm, and then he had the stuffing put into his arm, and that made his arm all swole. Like, that I understood, right? Excess stuffing kind of makes him look like, oh, look, he looks like he's got like a bicep. But there's no explanation given for this exactly, except for the fact that, you know, he's old now because he's an old toy. Like, I get the joke, but it doesn't really make sense to me. Like, maybe if he had like a scene where like a bunch of stuffing was put in or something like that, and it was consistent, but they actually bring out his gut at like random times in the various trailers that you see of this movie. It's not always there. He doesn't always have the gut. He only brings out the gut when it's like funny, which is like a Roger Rabbit rule, I guess. Like, it's just strange. Like, I understand it's a cartoon, but it's very set in the real world, but it also has this idea of, like, you know, toys coming to life because of, you know, some kind of magical force or something that's not explained. Okay, I understand that. So what's with the gut? What can you give me some kind of explanation about the gut? Do toys age in this universe? Are they gonna get old and die? Apparently not. There's a lot of toys that end up surviving for decades on end, so it's not like getting old means anything. They're not gonna die. So that's just one issue I had with this movie so far. And I haven't even seen them keeping the theme, you know, fully structured in how things, you know, are kind of directed in the movie. She was great for that in Toy Story 2 and Toy Story 3. You know, she's so good at like being this kind of foil to everything that's going on, that now that she's thrust as like the main like character of this movie, that we're supposed to follow her story, it's undermined by Woody coming back. And then also Buzz, where I feel like they've also struggled to kind of figure out what to do with Buzz, which is why, like, you know, Andrew Stanton just thought, hey, wouldn't it be cool to have like an army of Buzzes just randomly appear? And then I guess he's going to try to work that into the plot. Now, based movies where, like, you know, you have the tech expert, and then you have like the insurgent who goes in with the ropes and stuff, like, and you have everyone who has like their role. Like, I liked how they played that in Toy Story 3, how everyone kind of had like a special ability or talent, and that was used to kind of infiltrate and save various toys in the nursery, right? I thought that was interesting. So I wonder if they're going to have like a similar, this time, you know, Woody is kind of giving her perspective on, you know, coming to terms with technology and Lily Pad taking over and how to handle that. But, you know, Jessie is also very strong-willed, so I don't even know if she's going to listen to anything Woody has to say. You can already tell by the trailer she's very much like in her feelings. She's just going to do whatever she wants. She's not listening to Buzz, really. But yeah, I don't think Pixar has the trust in Jessie to carry the movie by herself, and it's a little bit disappointing. And I really hope that after this movie, that, you know, this franchise takes a good look at itself and realizes it has to do something different, because I don't think that you can just keep doing the same story, especially because toys, you know, they're not what they used to be. You know, a lot of technology has taken over in the real world, not just in this movie, and kind of supplanted the idea of like kids, you know, having playtime and playing with toys, at least ones that aren't like you have like 3-year-olds playing with toys maybe. But I feel like a lot of kids, when they reach the ages of like 5, 6, and 7, they start playing with like video games and tech and stuff like that, and they have phones, and, you know, I don't think toys are as much of a thing anymore. So how are they going to keep updating this franchise for the future? I feel like there's there's a kind of a bleak future ahead. And it's something that this has kind of always been hinted at with this franchise, is that, you know, these toys have a shelf life, right? Literally. Like they eventually get old and crusty, and, you know, no kids want to play with them anymore. And eventually they reach the trash bin. That's where Sid comes in, right? To take away the trash. By the way, I wasn't really happy with what they did with Sid in these movies, especially, I guess, in Toy Story 3 is where we see the, you know, the fate of Sid. He turns into the trash man, which I was immediately skeptical of. When the creators said, like, yeah, that's Sid. He's the trash guy. He's, you know, the garbage man taking out the trash. You can tell by the skull shirt. I'm like, okay, but he doesn't even really look like Sid. So I'm just kind of confused by that. I also feel like there's parts in this franchise that they could have really led to something interesting plot-wise for a future movie that they never tapped into. Like the fact that Woody revealed himself to Sid. Why didn't that have, like, you know, future impacts on the franchise? Like that could have really resulted in something interesting, you know, down the line. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't know what that could have caused, but imagine like the trauma that Woody caused Sid with, you know, that whole stunt, you know? I mean, it's not like he was killing people. He was playing with his toys. Yeah, he was taking them apart and stuff, but, you know, he wasn't a murderer. It's just that we see Sid as this evil little kid because that's how he's portrayed in the movie. But was he really that bad of a kid? And then he has to deal with all this trauma from his toys coming alive. How would that have changed him? So he became a garbage man? That's it? Kind of disappointing. I would be interested to hear, like, some other different thing happening. Like, I don't know, maybe like there's some kind of toy research lab or something that gets open to see if these toys are actually alive or not, to study like what it is to be alive and a toy. And, you know, these are ideas that this franchise has only briefly touched on. It's kind of like background noise. It's kind of like, you know, flavoring, but it doesn't really like brought to the forefront of the franchise, like basically ever. And even in this movie, Toy Story 5, you have this idea of like, you know, the consciousness of like the tech versus toys, and how is that different? Like, are they are played with by kids, but not in the same way as toys. So is their consciousness different? And where does their consciousness come from? Does it come from, you know, a complex AI that is developed by programmers, or is it something that is, you know, more than that? These are ideas that never get fully explored or fleshed out. And it's just kind of a little disappointing that, you know, this franchise has so much it could explore and it chooses not to. And I feel like, you know, there's an idea of like greater consciousness and stuff they could explore, like stuff that you would probably see in like an Inside Out movie, like that's way more heady and kind of, it deals with like the unconscious mind and stuff like that. And I think that's, you know, the idea of identity and self, like that stuff. I think that is a really interesting idea to explore, but they never explored in Toy Story. I don't know why. Worried about this movie? Are you excited? Let me know. Leave a comment and we'll talk about it. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see y'all next time on Scareticulous. As always, play nice.